Celine practically felt the champagne flute trembling in her hand as she stood prone at the edge of the ballroom, her heart pounding loud enough to echo across the marble floors. Across the crowd, her ex-husband Ellis was holding court, boasting about his lavish lifestyle and flaunting a much younger mistress on his arm. People pretended to laugh politely, yet some were clearly scandalized by his brazen show. Little did Ellis realize that something far more impressive was about to steal his thunder. A Tycoon's sleek private jet, rumored to be carrying an unexpected guest, awaited just outside the estate. Her arrival set to reshape everyone's fate. The annual Amberside Charity Gala was never just about philanthropy, it was the ultimate display of social status in Redwood Heights. The city's elite arrived in shimmering gowns and tailored tuxedos, drifting through a sea of opulence like swans on a moonlit lake. The night's events promised auctions, musical performances, and clandestine deals whispered in the corner of dimly lit corridors. Celine Hawthorne arrived early, not wanting to make a scene just yet. For years she had avoided these events. It stung too much to see her ex-husband, Ellis Hawthorne, walking around with a woman on each arm. People had speculated for a long time that Ellis had moved on to an endless parade of younger women. Gossip travelled far in Redwood Heights, especially when it came to a man as wealthy and scandalous as Ellis. Still, Celine never envisioned that her ex-husband's new mistress, this time a bright-eyed, energetic actress named Ava Sinclair, would be so brazenly displayed on his arm, like an award. Indeed, as soon as word spread that Ellis and Ava were engaged, tongues wagged with stories of Ellis's purchases, diamond necklaces, exotic vacations, and a lavish mansion in Monte Carlo. The duplicity stung, if only because Celine knew how he operated. Ellis liked to boast about his conquests more than he cared about any genuine emotional bond. What few knew was that Celine, dignified and poised, had quietly been building a life post-divorce that didn't revolve around luxurious jewels and private jets. She had fought for her independence, forging new business relationships and healing from the heartbreak that her marriage had caused. Her presence at the gala perplexed many. Whispers ignited among the philanthropic set. Why is she here after so many years? Has she come back to Redwood Heights for good? Did she hear about Ellis's new mistress and want to stir something up? In truth, Celine's motivations were more discreet. She had developed a relationship with Malcolm Chen, a powerful investor from Singapore with interests in renewable energy. They had become partners of sorts, business allies more than romantic lovers. But Malcolm was rumored to be in Redwood Heights for a massive project that would bring thousands of jobs to the area. And with Celine's persuasive abilities, she helped connect him to the right people. The gala was the perfect setting for such negotiations. Celine glided into the grand ballroom wearing a pale peach gown that gently accentuated her graceful silhouette. Her auburn hair was swept up, allowing a few delicate strands to frame her face. Heads turned. Some recognized her instantly and scrambled to greet her with forced smiles. Others, curious yet respectful, waited to see how the night would unfold. She was, after all, the former Mrs. Hawthorne, and that name carried enough weight on its own. Meanwhile, Ellis Hawthorne kept himself at the center of attention. He stood near the podium, swirling an expensive glass of bourbon, loud with laughter among a circle of admirers, a carefully curated mixture of potential investors and society darlings. "You'll never believe the place I toured for my next property," he boasted. "An entire castle in the south of France. I'm planning on converting it into a members-only club." He grinned, secure in the knowledge that those around him were entranced by his grandiose tales. Ava clung to his side, luminous in a sequined black gown, her camera-ready smile reminiscent of a star filming a perfume commercial. Celine wondered if Ava's apparent happiness was authentic, or if she, like countless others, was drawn by Ellis's wealth and promises. Celine had once been in Ava's shoes, showered with compliments, trips, and illusions that the future was theirs to mold. She knew, however, that such illusions could be painfully fleeting. Celine watched as Ellis leaned in to whisper something into Ava's ear. Then Ava's laughter, high-pitched and sweet, rippled through the room. A pang shot through Celine's chest, an uninvited memory of a time when she had laughed like that at Ellis's side, believing that no storm could ever drown their happiness. Shaking off the unwanted memory, Celine pressed forward, determined to concentrate on the evening's charitable objective. She wasn't here to reunite with Ellis or to claim some sort of public revenge. Instead, she wanted to pave the way towards something bigger. The potential to uplift Redwood Heights with a new industry and fresh opportunities, all through Malcolm Chen's proposed investments. She was about to approach the silent auction table when a bright voice called her name, "Celine, darling." Turning around, she recognized Lillian Greer, a flamboyant philanthropist known for her extravagant lifestyle and frequent charity dinners. Lillian wore a midnight blue gown, and as she embraced Celine, the soft aroma of lilies and expensive fragrance filled the air. "I had no idea you were coming tonight," Lillian exclaimed, stepping back just enough to hold Celine's arms at length. "Redwood Heights has missed you, some more than others." Celine forced a smile, knowing full well that Lillian loved a bit of scandalous gossip. "It's been a while. I'm here on behalf of a few business associates, hoping our community can expand in new directions." "I've heard a rumor," Lillian confided, inching closer. "You've been working with an investor. I also heard a rumor that a private jet carrying some very important people is on standby outside the estate. Care to confirm?" Celine let a ghost of a smile cross her lips. "You know how rumors go, Lillian. Tonight is about charity, not who's flying in on a jet." Her enigmatic reply further enticed Lillian, who bit her lip as if she'd discovered gold. Sensing no more details would be revealed for the moment, Lillian excused herself into the swirling crowd, presumably to spread her new tidbit of speculation. Celine felt a mixture of relief at Lillian's departure and apprehension about the rumor mill that would inevitably start turning. As she sidled over to the silent auction table, eyeing a rare painting rumored to be from the late 18th century, Celine paused. She realized someone stood behind her, the outline of his figure caught in the reflection of the glass. Turning around, she found Ellis Hawthorne himself, brandishing an astute, curious smile. "Well, look who decided to show up in Redwood Heights again," he said in a voice low enough to remain private without drawing attention. "I hardly recognized you, looking so glamorous." Celine gently placed the pen down before facing him fully. "Hello, Ellis," she replied calmly. "I see you haven't lost your taste for the brightest spotlight." He chuckled, swirling the remnants of bourbon in his glass. "There's no point in being wealthy if you can't flaunt the perks." A brief pause followed, and the once familiar tension between them surged. "I hear you're making deals these days. Always the cunning strategist, aren't you?" Celine ignored the jab. "Time changes people," she said. "I learned to look out for myself, especially after I realized you cared more for your reputation than your marriage." Ellis angled his head. "You used to enjoy the lavish lifestyle," he retorted. "Don't act like you were forced into it. But let's not rehash old wounds. I'm genuinely curious what brought you back. Redwood Heights hasn't exactly been your preferred destination since you left." "You seem to have managed just fine," Celine replied evenly, casting a quick glance at Ava, who was now chatting with an older couple across the hall. "Your new fiancé looks enthralled with your every word." He smirked, ignoring the slight. "This town thrives on drama and spectacle. We might as well give them a show." A moment of silence hovered between them, the charged undercurrent of unresolved history making the air thick and heavy. It was Ellis who finally broke eye contact, turning his gaze toward the painting on auction. "Good evening," he said, inclining his head in goodbye. "I'm sure we'll speak again soon." Celine exhaled a shaky breath as he walked away. Seeing him again brought a swirl of emotions she had tried to bury for years: disappointment, heartbreak, and, buried somewhere deep beneath anger, a faint trace of affection. but she refused to let the past overshadow her newly forged independence. Suddenly her phone buzzed in her small satin clutch. She retrieved it quickly, glancing at the screen. A brief text from Malcolm flashed. "Landed, everything set." Tucking her phone away, Celine halted to steady herself. Like an actress prepared to take the stage, she readied for part 2 of the evening's plan. Ellis might have the advantage of wealth and the mistress du jour, but Celine had something far more formidable: partners who could tip the scales of influence in Redwood Heights. And if everything went as intended, her maneuver would overshadow Ellis's bragging and give her a chance at real redemption for both her wounded heart and her ambitions. When the air around you thrums with the energy of secrets, you can sense the tension even if no one utters a word. Such was the case in the corridor leading to the VIP lounge of the Amberside estate. Celine stepped quietly, passing attendants in stiff uniforms and busybody managers, ensuring that trays of champagne and canapes reached the right guests. Behind a mirrored door was a private lounge set aside for the evening's most distinguished visitors. A single uniformed attendant opened it for her with a polite nod. Inside, 6 people sat in plush leather chairs, business suits pressed to perfection. Malcolm Chen, tall and slender, occupied a corner seat. He rose as she entered, his dark hair neatly combed back and his face reflecting both steeled determination and warmth towards Celine. "Good to see you," he said, gesturing for her to take the seat next to him. "I've been updating our counterparts here on the logistics. They're, how shall we put it, curious about Redwood Heights and the potential for expansion." Celine offered a brief smile to the others. Cornelius Drake, a property mogul from Chicago, Lydia Marino, a philanthropic real estate developer from Madrid, and 2 other associates from the financial sector. She recognized by the intensity in their eyes that business was their primary currency. As she settled into her seat, Malcolm continued, "I've outlined the plan for Redwood Heights to become a flagship site for the new renewable energy project. With the right partnerships from local government and investment from certain private parties, we can bring fresh economic life to the region. But we do have competition from other cities, so Redwood Heights needs to prove it's the best candidate." Lydia Marino, impeccably dressed in an emerald green pantsuit, leaned forward. "We've researched Redwood Heights a bit. Its economy, while stable, hasn't demonstrated major innovative leaps in recent decades. Why are you so certain it's the perfect location for this project?" Celine chose her words deliberately, mindful that these were influential individuals who wouldn't be swayed by empty promises. "Redwood Heights has an excellent infrastructure already. Major highways, a small but well-equipped airport, and proximity to a large labor pool. The local community is also hungry for an economic boost. That means less resistance and more collaborative spirit." Cornelius Drake, who had been appraising Celine as she spoke, crossed his legs. "And are we sure we have the local support? Some towns can be resistant to change, especially if big money is involved. The wealthy class might have their own interests." Celine knew precisely the kind of friction he referred to. Ellis Hawthorne was the figurehead of Redwood Heights' old guard, flaunting wealth without a genuine desire for progress. "We do have local support," she asserted, meeting Cornelius's gaze. "I've worked to secure the approval of several key city council members, and I have a meeting arranged with Redwood's mayor next week." Malcolm chimed in. "We have an advantage here too. Ellis Hawthorne's role in the city might be large in terms of real estate holdings and social influence, but he's not directly involved in Redwood's governmental policies. His presence may be a thorn for some, but we can outmaneuver him." Lydia exchanged a knowing glance with Cornelius before turning back to Malcolm and Celine. "Then, what is the next immediate step? We can't rely solely on good faith to seal this project. We want tangible assurances that Redwood Heights, as a municipality, will respond with open arms." Celine nodded. "That's where we come in. We've timed our presence here at the Amberside Charity Gala to coincide with a show of support. I've secured an introduction for you to a few influential Redwood Heights business owners tonight. If they're on board, we'll have the social capital to influence local politicians to expedite the necessary permits and regulations. She folded her hands on her lap as she glanced around the room. If we do this correctly, Redwood Heights will become the crown jewel of your renewable energy expansion, she concluded. A consenting murmur went through the lounge, and with that, Malcolm announced it was time to rejoin the gala. The lounge emptied in an orderly manner, like a small procession of quiet power. As they exited, Celine caught Malcolm's arm. "Thank you for trusting me with this," she said. "Believe me," he replied, "I know a valuable ally when I see one." Their eyes lingered for a moment, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken complexities between them. Business necessity mingling with the faint residue of deeper feelings. Then they returned to the thrumming pulse of the gala. Moments later, as the two roamed the manor, Celine's phone buzzed again. Another text from an unknown number. "You promised me an answer. Don't avoid me." She frowned, halting in the corridor. Exchanging a confused glance with Malcolm, she tapped her screen. The persistent calls and texts had started about 2 weeks ago, cryptic demands for an unknown answer. She wrote it off previously as spam or a misdial, but it seemed too constant and troubling to be mere coincidence. Malcolm noticed her unease. "Everything all right?" "Yes," she lied, pocketing the phone. "Probably just a glitch." The last thing she needed was another intrusive variable in a night already thick with tension. At that moment, the sharp clink of a microphone echoed from the main hall. They entered to witness the Master of Ceremonies, Horatio Brennan, calling for attention. "Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd kindly focus your attention up front, we're about to commence the fundraising portion of tonight's gala. Your generosity means scholarships for promising students across Redwood County." All eyes turned to Horatio. Ellis Hawthorne was right beside him, brimming with a smug grin. "We also have a special announcement tonight," Horatio continued. "Ellis Hawthorne, a longtime supporter of this gala, has pledged a donation that's sure to make a difference." A hush fell over the room. Ellis straightened, looking at once proud and theatrical. "In honor of this community and the future artists, scholars and innovators it may produce, I'm pledging $2 million to the Redwood Scholarship Fund." Applause surged through the crowd. It was a sizable figure, even among Redwood Heights' upper echelons. Smiling sweetly, Ava Sinclair looped her arm through Ellis's, fluttering her eyelashes at him. He accepted the applause like a reigning monarch. His glance briefly scanned the crowd, landing on Celine. The silent message was clear. "I'm still the big name in this town. During my recent travels," Ellis continued, "I was inspired by the philanthropic culture abroad, and I realized Redwood Heights deserves nothing less than the best. This scholarship will focus on science and innovation, fields that will shape our tomorrow." Another roar of applause followed. Celine controlled her expression, even though she recognized this as Ellis's display of vanity. But she also sensed that he was leaning into the philanthropic angle because he suspected a threat to his social dominance. Perhaps he'd heard rumors that Malcolm Chen was actively forging alliances. Looking over the sea of faces, Celine spotted a few she needed to speak with, local CEOs and board members who were crucial to winning Redwood's support for Malcolm's project. Slipping away into the crowd, she orchestrated discreet introductions, each conversation a calculated step toward building momentum. By the time the auction commenced, Celine was poised by a row of shimmering jewelry displays, chatting with a local energy magnate named Roderick Barnes and his wife Clara. New to Redwood Heights, but endowed with political ambition, Roderick might be the perfect bridge between Redwood's old money and prospective new ventures. "I've heard about these incoming investments," Roderick said, swirling champagne in his glass. "Redwood could use a jolt. If we play our cards right, we might attract not just Chen's faction, but others as well." Celine sized up Roderick. "You're exactly the sort of local voice we're looking for. People respect you as an innovator, someone who's not afraid to break a little tradition to bring growth and job opportunities. Clara, a petite woman with sharp eyes, added, "We must be mindful of Redwood's old guard, though. If Ellis feels we're encroaching on his sphere, he'll push back hard." Celine felt that subtle surge of adrenaline. That's precisely why we need critical alliances. If Redwood's business leaders gather behind the project, Ellis will be forced to adapt or risk isolation. Roderick exchanged a glance with Clara. "All right, set up a meeting. I want to see the numbers. If they're promising, count me in." Her heart fluttered at the sense of progress. After exchanging contact details, Celine excused herself to find Malcolm. She was in the corridor scanning the crowd when her phone chimed again. The same unknown number. "Answer me this time or you'll regret it." A chill danced up her spine. Before she had time to speak, an arm gently touched her elbow, and she turned to see Ellis, a curious tilt to his head. "Something's bothering you," he stated, not as a question, but as an observation. The woman I knew used to hide her tension behind a polite smile. Tonight you're not even smiling. She withdrew her arm from his grasp. "Ellis, we have nothing to discuss, don't we?" he tisked quietly. "You're talking to Redwood's rising stars, forming alliances. I sense a bigger scheme in play. You're forgetting, once upon a time you confided in me. I can still read you." Celine drew breath. She was about to retort when the sound of raised voices filtered in from the adjacent hall. "Prestigious guests, your attention, please. An unexpected arrival is about to take place on the front lawn." A wave of movement stirred in the crowd, and as if by an invisible command, they all gravitated toward the estate's grand entrance. Celine seized the chance to elude Ellis and slip away, adrenaline pumping. On the horizon beyond the estate, a sleek jet sat illuminated by floodlights, flanked by two polished SUVs. A hush spread among the guests, half of them scurrying outside to glimpse the spectacle through the grand glass doors. Whispers of excitement rippled. "That must be the rumored Tycoon's plane. Who's on board? Is Redwood Heights about to witness something extraordinary?" Celine lingered in the crowd. This was the moment she and Malcolm had planned. With a snap of an attendant's wrist, the SUV doors opened, and a tall figure gracefully stepped out. The hush turned into wide-eyed awe. While Ellis looked on, perplexed, the figure strode toward the estate with purpose. This figure was known in global finance circles, a man who rarely traveled for anything less than deals in the billions. Amid the growing buzz, Celine allowed her lips to curve into a subtle smile. The tide of Redwood Heights' fortunes was about to change, and Ellis would discover that not every spectacle was his to control. The cluster of onlookers parted, their curiosity amplified by the tingling awareness that Redwood Heights was about to be thrust into a larger world. The newcomer's name was Anton Brookshire, a reclusive magnate better known in Asia and the Middle East for his vast shipping empire. His presence typically spelled huge shifts in international trade. Few had expected him to personally arrive at a small charity gala in Redwood Heights. Clad in a tailored suit, his dark eyes and salt-and-pepper hair gave him an air of quiet power. He paused momentarily for the cameras that had begun flashing, local journalists who had scrambled outside upon hearing the news. Then, flanked by his assistants, he strode into the Amberside Estate's foyer, scanning the throng. Malcolm Chen advanced to greet him, his expression carefully measured, yet exuding relief that their plan was successfully in motion. "How was your flight?" Malcolm asked as he gave a polite bow, half out of respect, half for show in front of Redwood's elite. Anton offered a curt nod and a measured smile. "Seamless, though an inconvenience for Redwood's modest runway," he remarked dryly, indicating that while Redwood's airport had handled his jet, it would need serious upgrades if he were to conduct business here frequently. Their exchange was brief, yet significant. Anton's presence indicated not only a willingness to explore Redwood Heights for Malcolm's renewable energy venture, but also a potential partnership that could open Redwood's local businesses to global shipping routes, an undertaking that could eclipse anything Ellis had accomplished. Not far from them, Ellis stood with Ava on his arm, his brow furrowed. It was conspicuously clear that he was no longer the center of attention. The press, city officials, and prominent society members flocked to greet or simply observe Anton Brookshire. With a sly grin, Ellis leaned in to whisper something to Ava, who nodded hesitantly, her smile faltering. Meanwhile, Celine discreetly hovered on the periphery. She watched as Malcolm and Anton subtly turned the conversation toward Redwood's prospects, detailing the synergy between shipping expansions and renewable energy growth. The subdued glances in her direction, the double helix of anticipation in the air. She knew the pieces on the board were shifting. "You orchestrated this," sounded a low voice from behind. She turned to see Lillian Greer, a glimmer of awe in her expression. "Brilliant move, darling. The entire town is losing its mind over that jet. And Ellis, well, look at him." Lillian nodded to where Ellis wore the face of a dethroned king. "He's practically choking on his envy." "I'm only setting Redwood Heights on a new path," Celine insisted, though she couldn't deny the small spike of gratification that came from Ellis's discomfort. Gone were the days when she played the meek ex-wife, overshadowed by Ellis's bravado. Lillian's gaze flickered conspiratorially. "Everyone's going to want a piece of that shipping empire. Politicians, lobbyists, business owners. You sure about letting Redwood swallow this so quickly?" Celine appreciated Lillian's wariness. Redwood Heights was small enough that it might buckle under the weight of too many big investors too fast. But there was method to the madness. With the right leadership and checks in place, I think Redwood can grow without losing its identity. People like Roderick can help moderate. Lillian shrugged, a twinkle of admiration in her eyes. "Well, I for one am rooting for you." Outside, under a star-strewn sky, fireworks were being set up for the grand finale of the gala. The plan was for the display to highlight Redwood's heritage, an annual tradition that never failed to enrapture the crowd. Celine slipped past the growing swarm of curious guests, quietly making her way toward a balcony overlooking the estate grounds. She needed a moment away from prying eyes to gather her composure. The night air was brisk. Below, she observed the staff scurrying to set up the fireworks, the colored lights reflecting off the estate's ornamental fountains. She couldn't help but contemplate how, in just a few short hours, Redwood Heights had shifted from a stage for Ellis's vanity to a launching pad for something bigger. Her phone chimed again. She pulled it from her clutch, dread tightening her chest. The message read, "You haven't forgotten me, right? I'm closer than you think." The nameless, persistent sender clearly knew she was in Redwood Heights. Her mind raced. Was it a scorned former associate, a bitter personal rival? Each scenario added another layer of tension. Footsteps approached behind her. Startled, Celine slipped her phone away, turning to see Malcolm. His expression was one of quiet triumph, though tinted with caution. "Anton's presence is stirring the pot. He's interested, but the next steps need finessing. An official invitation from Redwood's council. A series of planning meetings to see how shipping expansions might dovetail into our energy project." He studied her face. "You okay?" She exhaled slowly. "Yes, just a bit winded by the pace of tonight's developments. Also, there's something odd going on. I've been receiving these anonymous texts. They're strange, almost veiled threats. I don't know who it is." Malcolm's eyes narrowed. "Should we be concerned about sabotage? Competitors might try intimidation tactics." "Possibly. Or it could be something more personal," she replied, her expression darkening. She didn't detail the entire messy history with Ellis, but the possibility that someone might hold a grudge or see her as a pawn or threat weighed heavy. "For now, it's just texts, and they haven't demanded anything concrete. Just an answer. To what? I haven't a clue." Malcolm set a comforting hand on her shoulder. "Let's keep an eye on it. I can assign some additional security if needed. With major deals on the table, we can't be too careful." She nodded, grateful for the support. As her gaze drifted past Malcolm's shoulder, she saw Ellis has stepped onto the balcony. His presence was not exactly subtle. In the glare of the overhead lights, his usually charming smile was gone, replaced by something steely and resolute. "Am I interrupting?" Ellis asked, looking from Celine to Malcolm. His stance conveyed confrontation, shoulders stiff, jaw set. Malcolm politely stepped back. "We were just discussing tonight's surprising turn of events." Ellis took a step forward, ignoring Malcolm. "Celine, can I speak to you in private? Just a minute." His tone was not quite pleading, not quite demanding, but somewhere in between. Celine weighed her options. She didn't trust Ellis, but refusing him in public might create a scene that could compromise the delicate negotiations. Giving Malcolm a slight nod, she followed Ellis to the far side of the balcony. "What is it?" she asked, keeping her voice low. Ellis's gaze burned into hers. "I see what's happening here. You're orchestrating an entire takeover of Redwood Heights. You and your circle of super-rich connections, Malcolm Chen, Anton Brookshire, are going to transform this town into some corporate playground. Meanwhile, you humiliate me in front of everyone." "No," Celine replied, forcibly steadying her voice. "I'm working toward progress for Redwood, not a personal vendetta against you. If you feel overshadowed, it's because Redwood's future shouldn't ride on your vanity." He forced out a bitter chuckle, scanning the gathering inside the estate. "You've always underestimated me. I'm not some powerless bystander. I'm the man who built half the properties in this city. People know me, trust me." His eyes narrowed. "You think they'll just abandon me because you show up with a bigger fish?" Celine inhaled, gripping the railing. "You still see everything as a competition, Ellis. If Redwood's success doesn't revolve around you, then you think it's a personal affront." He stepped closer, his voice dropping an octave. "That's because I know how these bigger fish play the game. They swoop in, promise big changes, reap the benefits, then leave the local community in chaos." His gaze flicked to the reflection of fireworks readiness in the distance. "I don't claim to be some saint, but Redwood is my home. I won't let you or anyone else exploit it." His statement caught her off guard. There was genuine conviction behind his words, a fierce protectiveness she hadn't expected. For a fleeting second she recalled the Ellis who, in their early days, had wanted to build Redwood into a thriving city for families. Had wealth and arrogance simply warped that dream? A flicker of old regret kindled in Celine's eyes. "If that's how you really feel, maybe you can work with us, not against us. You have influence. You can ensure Redwood's best interests are kept in mind. This doesn't have to be a war." He studied her face, as if reading between the lines. "We'll see," he said, stepping back. Behind them, the whoosh of igniting fireworks signaled the start of the show. Ellis retreated inside, leaving Celine in the hushed tension of the balcony. Boom! The first firework blossomed in the sky, scattering bright sparks over Redwood's sprawling lawns. Roars of delight drifted through the open doors. Celine watched the bursts of colour reflect off the estate's fountains, hearing the cheering crowd. In that moment, she couldn't decipher what exactly vexed her more, the ominous texts from an unknown source or the possibility that Ellis's protest had some merit. As the fireworks continued, she saw Ava glance at Ellis, who responded with a distracted nod. He was lost in his thoughts. Then, in a swirl of shimmering lights, Anton and Malcolm stepped outside to witness the spectacle, speaking in hushed tones about forging the framework for Redwood's new dawn. And there stood Celine, caught between the city's old ghosts and the promise of a shining future. Guilt and ambition wrestled in her chest. She was no longer simply a scorned ex-wife trying to outshine her former husband. She was a catalyst for progress. At what cost, though? That question would linger in her mind like the lingering smoke trails in the night sky. The morning after the gala found Redwood Heights abuzz with speculation and hope. Local news outlets led with headlines about Anton Brookshire's surprise appearance, and the rumored multi-billion-dollar infusion into the local economy. Social media swarmed with pictures of the sleek jet and hastily captured glimpses of Malcolm and Anton conferring with Redwood's entrepreneurs. Celine awakened early, glancing at her phone with residual apprehension for more mystery texts. Thankfully, there was nothing new. She made her way to a sunny breakfast nook in Redwood's boutique hotel, the Golden Blossom, which she had chosen for its quiet elegance. She found Malcolm already there, reading through a stack of documents and sipping black coffee. He greeted her warmly, motioning for her to sit. "We're on the cusp of something massive. Anton's team is drafting a memorandum of understanding. That's a huge step." Celine settled into the chair, ordering a cappuccino. "It's surreal. A year ago, I wouldn't have thought Redwood could capture global attention. Now, we're the talk of the state." She paused, gnawing on her lip. "Ellis cornered me last night. He shared concerns about Redwood being exploited. He thinks we'll bring short-term profit but leave a long-term mess." Malcolm placed down his document. "Exploitation is always a risk in big ventures, but that's why we have to structure these deals responsibly. If Redwood fosters growth in a balanced way, everyone gains. If Ellis truly cares about Redwood, he should collaborate, not sabotage." His reasoning was pragmatic, but Celine couldn't fully quell the uneasy sense that Redwood's transformation risked overshadowing the very people it aimed to uplift. "I'm meeting Roderick Barnes later to finalize a local business coalition. I'll emphasize that checks and balances remain a top priority." She took a tentative sip of her cappuccino, feeling the mixture of excitement and pressure. Her phone vibrated abruptly. She tensed, but once she checked the screen, relief washed over her. It was a call from a known contact, not the unknown harasser. She tapped accept. "Good morning, Ms. Hawthorne," came the crisp voice of Mayor Silas Green. "I'd like to personally invite you and your associates to City Hall next week for a preliminary discussion on Redwood's direction." "That sounds wonderful, Mayor," she replied. "Thank you for reaching out. We'll assemble the relevant parties." The call ended. Celine exhaled, a sense of calm taking hold. Momentum was definitely on their side. She updated Malcolm, who nodded approvingly. "Our timeline is accelerating. We should have Anton's official statement by then, and that will be the impetus Redwood City Council needs." Before she could respond, a text flashed on her phone, a new unknown number. "We need to talk now. I'm in Redwood. Elmwood Cafe, half an hour." A chill jolted through her. A second text followed just seconds later. "Come alone. Don't mention this to anyone, or I'll leak everything." Celine felt her heartbeat slam against her ribs. Leak everything. Did they have personal information about her business deals, past grievances? Malcolm noticed her sudden pallor. "Is it them?" he asked quietly. She swallowed hard. "Yes, they want me to meet at Elmwood Cafe. I can't ignore it anymore. They're threatening to make something public." He looked alarmed. "Are you sure this is safe?" "I need to find out what's going on," she replied, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "I'll be careful, but maybe I should do this alone." Malcolm frowned. "At least text me if anything seems off. I'll be nearby." She nodded, grateful for his concern. 40 minutes later, Celine stood outside Elmwood Cafe, a modest brunch spot known for its artisanal pastries. She entered slowly, scanning the small interior, where only a handful of early patrons sipped lattes or typed away on laptops. No one looked suspicious at first glance. After ordering a simple tea, she took a seat by the window, waiting. Minutes seemed to crawl. Then the bell overhead jingled as a man in a charcoal grey coat stepped inside. He was of average build, with thinning blonde hair and lines that traced his forehead. He made immediate eye contact with Celine, exhaling sharply before sliding into the seat across from her. The name Aaron Glenvale sparked in her memory, a figure from Redwood's past. "Aaron?" she whispered, remembering him as a once promising real estate developer who had fallen out of favor in Redwood due to some scandal with mismanaged funds. She hadn't spoken to him in years. He raked his hand through his hair. "I bet you didn't see this coming." "Why the cryptic threats? And how did you get my number?" she hissed, torn between confusion and anger. Aaron fiddled with the cafe's sugar packets as if trying to calm shaky nerves. "I needed your attention. You've been ignoring the calls. I was desperate." She stared at him, unsettled. "What could be so urgent that you resort to veiled threats?" He let out a low grunt. "I've been investigating Ellis Hawthorne's business dealings, specifically his shell companies, his acquisition of certain Redwood properties. Let's just say I have reasons to believe that Ellis's fortune isn't as clean as it appears. He's damaging Redwood from within, siphoning resources and leaving local communities to rot. The new developments he's boasted about, all part of a bigger scheme to funnel money overseas." Celine felt her stomach clench. "And what does that have to do with me?" "Ellis once manipulated your finances too, your joint finances. Remember that orphanage project you sponsored? The funds that mysteriously ran short? Ellis may have siphoned off a portion. I have records that could confirm it." She pressed her fingertips to her temples, grappling with the shock. Why wait until now to bring this up? Aaron's gaze wavered. "A year ago, I tried to blow the whistle, but no one in Redwood's old guard would listen. The Hawthorne name is sacred around here. I ended up ostracized. Then I heard rumors that you were returning, forging alliances with big investors. I figured if you plan to reshape Redwood, you ought to know that Ellis's empire is rotten. If Redwood is to have a brighter future, you can't let him keep leeching off the city." Her pulse quickened. Had Ellis stolen from charitable causes? If true, the moral weight of exposing him battled with the dread of what a scandal might do, both to Redwood's reputation and, ironically, to her own. She'd be drawn into a dirty war with her ex-husband, overshadowing any progress she'd made with Malcolm and Anton. Still, she had to know more. "Why threaten me?" she asked, struggling to keep her voice level. "You could have just told me this straightforwardly." Aaron's lips thinned. "I didn't know if you'd actually listen. People in Redwood get starstruck by Ellis's wealth. My caution turned into desperation. I was prepared to make a splash if you ignored me again." He paused. "But you came," she exhaled shakily, her mind spinning. "Do you have solid evidence?" He opened a brown envelope, letting her glimpse spreadsheets, wire transfers and documentation that linked Ellis's shell companies to offshore accounts. Some lines were highlighted in red, numbers swirling in a damning pattern. Celine recognized certain donation amounts meant for Redwood charities, including the orphanage. She felt a hot flush of betrayal boil in her veins. "This is bigger than I thought." She glanced around to ensure no eavesdroppers loomed. "What do you want me to do with it?" Aaron sighed. "I can't bring this to Redwood's authorities alone. I'll get crushed, or worse. But you have connections now. If you bring it to the right people, federal investigators or Redwood's mayor, if he's not compromised, this might end Ellis's stranglehold." Celine's mind reeled with conflicting thoughts. Exposing Ellis could tear Redwood's social fabric, especially right when major investors were stepping in. But ignoring it would be morally corrupt. She recalled Ellis's speech about caring for Redwood, about not letting big fish exploit the city. Was he just projecting his own misdeeds onto her? She gathered herself, blinking back a rising headache. "All right, let me see what I can do." She carefully slid the documents into her briefcase. "But you must refrain from sending cryptic threats. If I pursue this, I need clarity, not blackmail." Aaron nodded, relief momentarily softening his features. "Deal." As he rose to leave, she touched his arm. "One last question. How certain are you that Ellis can be brought down by these documents?" A ghost of a smile flickered on Aaron's lips. "Certain enough that he'd move heaven and earth to keep them buried." After he left, Celine sat there, heart pounding, her tea untouched and long since gone cold. She stared out the cafe window at Redwood's main boulevard. Shop owners were opening for the day, children strolled beside parents, blossoming pink flowers lined the sidewalks. In that quintessential American scene, the seeds of a major corruption scandal lay hidden. She texted Malcolm, "I'm okay, need to talk, urgent, where can we meet?" His swift reply, "My hotel suite in an hour." Tucking the envelope securely into her bag, she stepped outside, bracing as a cool wind swept over her. If Redwood was to be saved, she realized, she might have to break it open first, reveal the rot so that new growth could truly take hold. Celine paced in Malcolm's suite, her nerves taut as piano wires. She'd shown him the damning evidence an hour earlier, and his reaction had been a mix of shock, anger, and cautious calculation. Outside, the evening sun tinted Redwood's skyline with streaks of pink and gold. Inside, the weight of scandal pressed heavily against the plush walls and thick carpet. Malcolm exhaled slowly, revisiting one of the spreadsheets illuminated on his laptop screen. If these documents are genuine, Ellis has been siphoning funds from multiple charities and funneling them through at least 3 shell companies in Luxembourg and Bermuda for years. We're talking 7-figure sums, maybe more. Celine sank onto a leather armchair, rubbing her temples. He was always flamboyant with his spending, but I thought it was legitimate. Profits from real estate deals, some inherited wealth. The idea he stole from Redwood's charities is horrifying. Her jaw tightened. He has to be stopped. Malcolm nodded, tapping at the keyboard. "I'm forwarding these documents to a trusted forensic accountant. We need an expert review before we make any move. Once we're certain, we need a plan. Because if this leaks prematurely, Ellis will either turn it around or cover it up." A dread-laden hush followed. The magnitude of the looming confrontation was immense. Ellis wasn't just any Redwood figure. He was Redwood's golden child, a central pillar of its social scene. Exposing him as a criminal could rock the entire community. Celine's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number again. Her breath caught, but reading it brought a fresh jolt of adrenaline. "Ellis is panicking. He suspects something's up. Be careful." Another piece from Aaron, presumably. She showed Malcolm, who scowled. "Then we have to act fast," he said. "The forensic accountant can produce a preliminary finding within a day or 2. As soon as we know it's watertight, we meet with Redwood's mayor. We'll try to keep this from going nuclear until we can ensure city leadership doesn't bury it." Celine nodded, though her mind whirled. Redwood's mayor, Silas Green, had a decent reputation, but Ellis might have connections that could compromise anyone. "We should also be ready for personal backlash. Ellis might try to discredit me, or you, or even Anton, to preserve his own power." Malcolm's eyes hardened. "We'll have to handle that too. I'll talk to Anton. If Redwood is riddled with corruption, we might need to reevaluate parts of our investment strategy. But I'm determined not to let a single crook derail an entire region's future. We'll adapt." They spent the next hour studying the documents, labeling each suspicious transaction. Through it all, Celine felt a swirl of conflicting emotions: anger, betrayal, fear, and even a sliver of pity for Ellis's moral dissent. Memories of their early love prickled at the back of her mind. Once considered Redwood's power couple, they'd done so much philanthropic work together. Had that all been a lie? Eventually, exhaustion weighed on them. Malcolm insisted on ordering dinner to maintain their stamina. Over pasta and grilled vegetables, the conversation shifted to more personal ground. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. "I know you built a life beyond Redwood, but this is your hometown. This is personal." Celine sipped at her water. "I guess it is. There's a sadness in me, like mourning a dream. But Redwood deserves honesty, and I can't let Ellis keep warping it. It's time he faced consequences." Malcolm reached for her hand, warmth in his gaze. "You're strong. You always have been. Don't forget that." The hours ticked by until the forensic accountant's call came through. Celine perched on the edge of the bed, Malcolm pacing as they listened on speaker. The accountant's voice crackled. "The documents seem authentic. If this is introduced to legal authorities, Ellis Hawthorne would be in serious trouble. I recommend immediate consultation with legal counsel. Relief and dread colliding, Celine muttered a thank you. She rescheduled a city hall meeting with the mayor for the next morning, intending to privately present the evidence. With that step decided, she prepared to leave Malcolm's suite. "Let's stay discreet until tomorrow," she said, suddenly feeling the urge to step outside, breathe fresh air. Malcolm nodded. "Agreed. Be vigilant tonight. We must go about our business as if everything is normal." Down in the hotel lobby, Celine paused briefly. A smattering of Redwood's socialites loitered near the bar, sipping cocktails. She kept her expression neutral, gave a polite nod to a familiar face or two, then slipped out into the night. The sky was clear, the stars bright overhead. Redwood's main avenue hummed with subdued traffic, shop lights dimming as store owners wrapped up their day. Drawing her coat closer, she strolled toward her car, scanning for any sign of being watched. A figure stepped out from behind a parked SUV. She tensed, but recognized Ava Sinclair, Ellis's fiancée. Ava appeared distressed, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. "Celine," she said, voice ragged. Celine stopped short, adrenaline spiking. "Ava, what are you doing here?" "I've been waiting for you," Ava confessed, wringing her hands. "I saw you go inside the hotel hours ago. I got nervous, so I waited." Celine's mind raced. Did Ava know about Ellis's crimes, or was this about something else entirely? She kept a measured tone. "Are you okay?" A trembling breath escaped Ava's lips. "I don't know. Ellis is furious. He's convinced a smear campaign is brewing against him. He's talking about shutting people down, calling in favors from old contacts. He even threatened me if I ever crossed him." Celine's stomach knotted. "Threatened you how?" Ava lowered her gaze. "He's made it clear that if I break his trust, he'll crush my career. He can be quite terrifying when he's angry, you know." "Yes," Celine said grimly, recalling her final days of marriage, when Ellis's inflated sense of power sometimes turned menacing. "Why are you telling me this, Ava?" Tears slipped down the younger woman's cheeks. "I thought I was with him for love, or at least genuine affection. But all this talk about burying secrets. I didn't sign up for something illegal. He's the only one who can get me out of some debt from the past, but now I feel trapped." A pang of empathy cracked across Celine's chest. She recalled being in that precarious position with Ellis, love overshadowed by intimidation, the weight of his threats stifling her own sense of worthiness. "Look, if you have any evidence of Ellis's wrongdoing, you should come forward. You don't deserve to live in fear." Ava's eyes flickered with desperation. "But if I cross him, I'm finished. My acting career, the house he bought my mother, everything. And if he's really done something criminal, I don't want to be dragged down with him." Celine gently placed a hand on Ava's shoulder. "I won't lie. There might be fallout. But you can't bury your head in the sand. If you cooperate with authorities, you might gain some leniency." Ava swallowed hard, seeming to wrestle with the idea. "I need time to think, but please, if you do something against Ellis, can you let me know first? I don't want to be blindsided. I'm so scared." Compassion welled in Celine. She scribbled her private phone number on a receipt from her bag. "Call me if you feel unsafe, or if you decide to talk. I can't promise everything will be painless, but I refuse to let Ellis hurt anyone else." Ava clutched the slip of paper like a lifeline, tears pooling in her eyes. "Thank you." Then she turned and hurried down the dimly lit street, glancing over her shoulder as if Ellis could materialize at any moment. Celine watched her go, a swirl of heartbreak and determination swirling in her chest. She remembered how easily Ellis manipulated people, how illusions of love and grandeur often masked the controlling undercurrents of fear. He might have boasted about a new mistress, but behind the glittering facade was a woman terrified of losing everything. When Celine finally reached her car, she paused to look up at Redwood Heights' modest skyline, a cluster of older stately buildings offset by a few modern structures. The city's future was perched on a precarious edge. One direction led toward progress and ethical rebirth. The other threatened deeper corruption. She slid into the driver's seat, steadied her breath, and started the engine. Tomorrow the mayor would learn the truth, and Redwood might never be the same. Yet in confronting Ellis, she also stepped onto a tightrope. One false move, and all the hope she'd worked to generate for Redwood's future could collapse. Mayor Silas Green's office was quieter than usual, the usual bustle outside replaced by an uneasy hush. Celine perched in a leather chair opposite the mayor's desk, her heart pounding like a distant drum. Malcolm sat beside her, calmly reviewing his notes. Roderick Barnes hovered near the door, having trusted Celine's urgent request to attend. An official city attorney named Gerald Miller angled in from the side, face set in a skeptical frown. Mayor Green leaned forward, hands folded. "Ms. Hawthorne, you stated that you have something critical to report, something that cannot wait. We've closed this session to the public upon your request. Now please explain." Celine inhaled slowly. She and Malcolm had rehearsed how best to reveal the evidence, so the mayor didn't dismiss them. "We have reason to believe Ellis Hawthorne has been embezzling funds from various Redwood charities for years. We've obtained documents that appear to confirm multiple shell companies, large offshore transfers, and direct links to Redwood philanthropic accounts." The mayor's complexion paled, but he maintained composure. "That's a serious accusation. If Ellis is involved in organized fraud, Redwood stands to face a massive scandal. Are you absolutely sure about this?" Malcolm interjected. "We've sent the documents to a forensic accountant who verified their authenticity. We're prepared to present them to state or federal authorities if Redwood's local administration can't handle it." "I can't promise we'll keep this local," Gerald Miller chimed in, adjusting his glasses. "A crime of this scope often attracts federal involvement. We're talking money laundering across international lines." Roderick paced near the door, looking stricken. If Ellis is truly guilty, Redwood's economy might be severely impacted. He's tied to numerous projects, employs thousands in real estate. This could ruin us unless we handle it carefully. Mayor Green leaned back, letting out a heavy sigh. "We'll need to proceed with caution. Redwood doesn't have the resources to investigate a case this large. I'll have to contact the Attorney General's office. In the meantime, we must keep this under wraps to prevent Ellis from fleeing or destroying evidence." Celine felt a momentary surge of relief that the mayor was taking them seriously, but her thoughts flickered to Ava. She'd promised to warn the young actress if a crackdown was imminent. "Mayor, we can't let him suspect that we're onto him. He may attempt to silence witnesses or vanish with funds." Gerald Miller nodded. "We can request that a judge seals certain subpoenas, keep our preliminary investigation covert until we have enough for an indictment. But once that's started, time is of the essence." The group hashed out a plan. The mayor would reach out discreetly to higher officials, the city attorney would gather the necessary warrants, and Roderick would alert reliable local business leaders to brace for the fallout. Throughout it all, Redwood's future hinged precariously on how Ellis responded once the first subpoena landed on his doorstep. As they wrapped the meeting, the mayor paused. "I appreciate you bringing this forward. I know there's personal history between you and Ellis, but I trust you're doing this for Redwood's good." Celine bowed her head. "I am," she replied softly. Emerging from City Hall, Celine tried calling Ava, to no avail. She texted, "Ellis might face legal action soon. Be ready. Please stay safe." After ending the text with trembling hands, she turned to Malcolm. "She's not answering. I hope she's okay." Malcolm placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll do our best to protect her if it comes to that." They stepped onto the sidewalk. The sun hung high, painting Redwood in bright midday gold. Yet a shadow seemed to cloak the city, for soon Redwood's darling mogul might be revealed as a criminal. Celine parted ways with Malcolm, each needing to attend separate meetings that had been planned days before. But a sense of urgency dogged her. She headed to the Redwood Art Space, where she was supposed to meet Lillian Greer for a charitable exhibit. The plan was to maintain normalcy while the mayor initiated the covert investigation. The art space, housed in a renovated warehouse, buzzed with visitors. Modern sculptures and abstract paintings formed a labyrinth of colourful exhibits. Lillian greeted her near a pedestal displaying a sculpture titled "Rebirth in Gold." "Oh, darling," Lillian crooned, "it's so lovely to see you outside the chaos of a gala for once. Care for a glass of bubbly? They're serving local champagne in the lounge." Celine forced a cheerful smile, feeling the strain of the secrets she carried. "Sure, just a small one. I'm trying to keep my wits about me today." They wove through the displays to a lounge area where an attendant poured them chilled champagne. Lillian studied Celine's face. "You look worried. More than the usual redwood stress. Anything I should know?" Celine hesitated. Lillian was a voracious socialite, but she also had valuable connections. Perhaps her insight could be useful. "Something big is in the works," Celine finally admitted, swirling the champagne in her glass. "I can't give details, but Redwood might soon be rocked by a major revelation." Lillian's eyes glittered with curiosity. "You can't tease me like that, darling. A secret scandal?" Celine sipped her champagne, not responding, but the tension in her posture likely told Lillian enough. The philanthropist's features darkened. "This is about Ellis, isn't it? I keep hearing murmurs. He's been in such a sour mood since the gala, and that fiancée of his, Ava, was sobbing at a charity brunch this morning." At the mention of Ava's tears, Celine's stomach twisted. Ava was clearly under severe stress. "If you see her again," Celine said, her voice hushed, "please remind her she's not alone and that she can reach out to me." Lillian nodded, her expression perplexed, yet empathetic. Outside the lounge doors, a flurry of commotion arose. People murmured, stepping aside as Ellis Hawthorne himself stormed in, his expression thunderous. A hush fell. Ellis's gaze swept the room, landing squarely on Celine. Lillian, reading the tension in the air, discreetly stepped back. Ellis marched up, voice low yet pointed. "We need to talk, now." Celine's pulse thudded in her ears. "I'm in the middle of a meeting, Ellis." He glowered, ignoring her protest. "I have reason to believe you're orchestrating a smear campaign against me. I've been hearing rumors of investigations, sealed subpoenas. Care to explain?" Inside, Celine's heart lurched. The mayor must have begun reaching out, and Ellis had gotten wind. She forced a cool front. "Smear campaign? That sounds paranoid." His lips curled into a sneer. "Don't play coy. People talk in Redwood. The mayor's discreet inquiries aren't so discreet. If you're digging into my finances to tarnish my name, I will not hesitate to retaliate." He lowered his face close to hers, voice filled with menace. "I know how to bury unpleasant business, Celine." A hush had fallen over the lounge, with guests blatantly eavesdropping. In a calm, low tone, Celine replied, "If you've done nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about, right?" His eyes blazed. "You'll regret this." And with that, he pivoted on his heel, storming out. Lillian hurried forward, looking flustered. "What on earth is happening, Celine?" She managed a tight smile. "I'm sorry, Lillian, but I have to go. Something urgent came up." Apologizing to the rattled lounge staff, she darted through the exit, her heart pounding. Back out on Redwood streets, she pressed her phone to her ear, calling Malcolm. "He knows," she said the moment he answered. "Ellis just confronted me at the art space. He's threatening retaliation. We have to be ready. He'll do anything to cover his tracks." Malcolm's voice was tense. "The city attorney sent me a message. They're expediting the process. We might see official actions as early as tomorrow." Celine ended the call, raking shaky fingers through her hair. This was it, the final countdown before Redwood's old illusions shattered. She spent the rest of the day in a blur of phone calls and cautious confirmations. That evening she holed up in her hotel room, triple-checked all her locks, and tried to quell the gnawing fear in her gut. Just after midnight her phone buzzed again. This time it was Ava, voice trembling. He found out I talked to you. He's furious. He's throwing things, screaming about betrayal. I'm hiding in the bathroom. Please, what should I do?" Celine's heart sank. "Where are you? I'll come get you," Ava sobbed. "We're at his house, North Ridge Estate. He's outside. I can hear him pacing." Swallowing her panic, Celine replied, "Find your purse and phone. Wait until it's safe. Then go to the front door. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Text me if the situation changes." She reached out to Malcolm for backup. "I'm heading to Ellis's place for Ava. She's in jeopardy." Malcolm insisted on accompanying her. 15 minutes later, they were in a rental SUV, winding through Redwood's upscale neighborhood. The gates of North Ridge Estate loomed in the moonlight. Ava, gaunt-faced, emerged from the shadows, clutching a single suitcase. A mansion window behind her glowed through the curtains, ominous. Malcolm jumped out, ushering Ava into the back seat while Celine kept watch. No sign of Ellis yet, just an eerie calm. The instant Ava was safe in the car, they sped off. She trembled uncontrollably, tears streaming. "He called me a traitor, threatened to ruin me. I can never go back." Celine's voice was gentle. "You did the right thing to leave. We'll make sure you're safe." As Redwood streets flew by under the moonlit sky, the stakes of the confrontation became painfully clear. Ellis was cornered, dangerous. Tomorrow, Redwood would see the facade crack wide open, and in the swirl of heartbreak, betrayal, and potential redemption, they all sensed the unstoppable momentum of truth bearing down on them. By week's end, Ellis Hawthorne's misdeeds were laid bare, catalyzing Redwood Heights into a storm of media scrutiny. Tarries of investigators swept through his offices, while local citizens, stunned and betrayed, looked to Celine and her allies for leadership. Ava, finally free from Ellis's grasp, received the help she needed to regroup and stand as a witness. Malcolm continued forging investments in Redwood, ensuring the city's rejuvenation soared above one man's corruption. And Celine, finally liberated from the dark shadows of her past, guided Redwood toward a new, transparent era. If you enjoyed this dramatic story of hidden motives, explosive revelations, and daring redemption, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Share it with others who crave gripping tales, and stay tuned for more.